every time.
We tried. Actually, we
Actually, that against Vote every time.
We tried. Actually, we
Actually, that against Vote every time.
We tried. Actually, we
Actually, that against
That is the Cleveland Guardians celebrating in the clubhouse after clinching the division. The Guardians say, smoking cigarettes. Are they really? I believe that was a watershed moment in the cannabis industry. We'll talk about that in a moment. I'm Dave Briggs, psyched to be joined by Gordon Whelpley, the founder of Float House THC Brew. It is fantastic. We're going to dive into the brand and the industry in just a moment. But first, Gordon, is that a cigarette that the Cleveland Indians are celebrating with? Because I have never seen anyone in my life hold a cigarette that way.
Exactly. I mean, it's pretty clear. Pretty clear that's not a cigarette. And like, why be afraid of it? You know, maybe, frankly, they should be drinking one of these instead, but, a little bit better for your lungs.
It's funny you say that because I genuinely think we're not that far away from that moment. I actually thought we'd see this before we saw an actual joint in a Major League Baseball clubhouse. By the way, marijuana is legal in the state of Ohio, so there's nothing actually wrong with it. I believe this is a watershed moment for the industry if we can get them to admit what happened there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we just got to call them up direct, huh? And get the real deal. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's, 2025. It is, like you said, perfectly legal, and, you're having a good time. You're celebrating.
Yeah, it's legal in half of Major League Baseball cities. So let's get on board. I think one of these teams need to embrace THC beverages and sell it at the stadium. I hope that happens in the next couple of years because I think that would really help the industry. And more than anything, it would help these teams because people aren't drinking alcohol. What they are doing is consuming cannabis. By the way, I did contact the Guardians media relations who did not answer my question. They did, however, pull down that tweet from X right after I messaged them. So I'm just suggesting maybe they are related. All right. Meanwhile, let's celebrate with our beverage of the moment. This is Float House, and it is terrific. Gordon, first, let's just talk about the brand. Tell me what this is and why beer or brew is really an untapped category.
Yeah, so this is exactly what you said. It's a brew. It is technically not a beer. We've gone to great lengths to keep it outside of the definition of a malt beverage. That is really the only way to bring a product like this to market and be able to distribute it across state lines. Otherwise, you're stepping on the toes of the TTB, and we don't want to do that. We want to do it the right way. I come from beer, spent my entire professional career in the brewing industry, from Magic Hat to El Segundo to Stony Creek back in Connecticut, and then 12% after that. And the last 5 years in this infused beverage space, kind of consulting, working for other infused beverage companies, and working on figuring out how to do this.
So what made you want to leave the beer industry and put THC in it and really start a new category, essentially?
Yeah, my entire goal working in craft beer was to open up a brewery. But by the time I felt ready to do it, there were 130 breweries in Connecticut alone. And what do I knew how tough of a business it was and how crowded and how difficult it was. And then I was out at the Craft Brewers Conference in 2019 in Denver, and Keith Villa had just launched his infused non-alc beers there. And I had one of those one night, barely drank any alcohol, and had the best time of that entire conference. And that was it. It was kind of a light bulb moment.
And what is happening overall in the beer industry? It appears to be, and no pun intended, flat at best, if not contracting.
Yeah, it is. It's tough out there. you've got all these IPAs dying on shelves, so much variety. The stuff that is winning is, coming from New Belgium, your Voodoo Ranger variants, the stuff that's, getting you the most bang for your buck, and then kind of tapping into these more flavored SKUs. And, so we're seeing kind of a shift, kind of budget buying, how much alcohol am I going to get for $9-12, as well as like this emergence of these like low ABV, beers like Dad Strength, et cetera, that are kind of growing. I feel because people in my age cohort, like myself, we love beer, but just cannot hang the same way we used to. And that's where this product fits in, right, kind of with that Dad Strength drinker.
Yeah, I mean, really the growth in the beer sector is in the non-alcoholic category. I believe Athletic Brewing is easily the fastest growing beer. It is the #1 beer at Whole Foods, including those with alcohol, and it is a non-alcoholic brew. Okay, so let's talk about the one I'm holding. Tell people basically about the flavor profile and, of course, the milligrams.
Right. So this is inspired by your classic light American lager. We wanted a crispy, crushable, unobtrusive brew that is, going to hit that spot on a hot day. It's not, with everything we do here at Float House, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just taking popular styles and shifting them into this non-malt beverage format to make it approachable for somebody who hasn't tried THC. That's also where the low dose comes in. We've got these 3 milligram SKUs. We are capped at 3 milligrams in Connecticut. That is the maximum we can do. We are working on some higher dose SKUs for other markets and online. But the 3 milligrams, for me and for a lot of folks, I want to have more than just a single beverage. I love the act of drinking socially. And if I'm drinking a 10 milligram drink, I'm having one, and that's good. I'm going to see how that goes, and then, probably not drink more. So that's kind of the thought process behind the low dose.
I'll be honest, I've consumed cannabis for the better part of 20 years. And when I drink a 10, as I did the other night, it's game over for me. I was done. I had to go to bed, and I didn't really enjoy it because it hit so hard after one drink. Like, I can't, that's like if I drank a 5-shot tequila beverage or bourbon beverage. I don't frankly understand it. And so I believe the 3 milligram decision by Connecticut is actually the right one. Do you think that should be a national standard? I don't think Connecticut does a lot right in terms of the government, but do you think the industry would be better if that were a national standard?
I think we're in an interesting spot with that. What Connecticut has done with this constraint has proven that even at this low dosage rate, there is a demand for these products and people are buying them in droves. We've been in market since May, and we've just been opening up accounts and getting great rebuy rates, and things are going really well. I am very aware of some very vocal consumer segments that, can't feel a 10, can't feel a 50, it's 100 plus milligrams or bust. And we just launched in New Jersey with these 3 milligram SKUs, and we're getting a lot of pushback from retailers there because they, the majority of sales are 10 plus. But where we are seeing growth and opportunity is on premise. And that's where we want to be to grow the brand. If have a restaurant or a bar, you don't want to be serving, a single thing. You want people to buy multiple drinks. And so 3 milligrams seems to hit right for the on-premise accounts.
Where are you on-prem? Like, are we talking mainly restaurants, bars?
Mostly bars, and just a handful so far, but, Jersey allows for that kind of in the absence of regulation. And also in Rhode Island, we're in a handful of bars there too. They allow it. They've stopped issuing new licenses for it, but the places we're in, it is, doing really well.
And that's where I believe Connecticut has really messed this thing up, because on-prem is where these beverages belong, in particular at concert venues, and I had brokered a
Yes.
deal for the biggest concert venue in Connecticut to sell these, and then Connecticut closed that loophole. John Halper, who was with us earlier in the show, he said 48 of his top 50 SKUs are high dose, as in 10 milligrams and above. How problematic is that moving forward? Are we just selling to the like hardcore, the smoker, and not really touching the wider audience that's out there?
Well, this is a thing we're conflicted about all the time, and this is
Yeah.
why we're launching higher dose SKUs for New Jersey to be able to compete in those markets. You know, there is the existing consumer base that is purchasing 10 plus, and the low dose stuff, if that's all you can get, like Connecticut, people buy it. But
Yeah.
if, you know, in a place like Jersey, it is going to take a long time to grow that education, because that person, you know, our target consumer, that, you know, tired dad who has no time to be hungover on a, you know, Saturday morning, they don't even know this exists. And when they go in and they see that shelf, they're like, that's all crazy. I don't even know where to start. So,
and I get it, because people are walking up on the shelf and they're saying, I can buy 48 milligrams or I can buy 12 milligrams for the same price. And so they're going for bang for their buck. And I'm afraid it's really going to hamper growth overall in the industry, because no one I know, as in no one I know, can drink a 10 milligram drink. Most of the people in my world who love these drinks love only 2 and 3. That is it. And the ladies I know, and this is not sexist, they take a 2 milligram gummy and they're good for the night. So I really think this is the question for the industry as we move forward. But Gordon, the other one is, will Congress shut down the entire industry? A lot of my friends are worried that they are going to close that 2018 loophole from the Farm Bill and essentially end the industry. What's your level of concern?
You know, there is kind of a high level of concern about it, and also a lack of efficacy. You know, it kind of feels out of control from my perspective. You know, what am I going to do? I've contacted my members of Congress, you know, active about it, but the way government is going right now, you know, still don't have a crystal ball, and I am nervous about this sort of Damocles. You know, anything could really play out right now. You know, we're involved in the Hemp Beverage Alliance, and that industry group is working very hard at, you know, raising awareness about this, working with, you know, senators and reps, and kind of getting our position out there. But things could kind of go anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation. I constantly hear about this stuff getting in the hands of kids. What they don't understand is kids can get their hands on whatever they want, and you'd much prefer. Frankly, I encourage my kids to drink these over some crappy liquor that they might pick up a handle of. This is your best case scenario, parents.
Yeah.
And they are also getting their hands on unregulated weed at smoke shops across the country. It's not hard for kids. They can get it anywhere, and not from a dealer, from literally these smoke shops that line the country. Gordon, I'm guessing half of them sell illegal marijuana. The one in my town has been busted 4 times, and they just keep reopening. It's whack-a-mole.
Between that and the Kratom and all these other things that are available, you know, this, you know, I firmly believe this category needs to be regulated thoughtfully. We, you know, don't want it getting into the hands of kids. The inevitability of, you know, I was a kid growing up in Connecticut. I would drive across the border into New York on a Sunday and use my fake ID to buy a 30 rack. And, you know, kids are going to be kids, but it is, you know, the duty of the parents to kind of talk about these things and educate. I don't know. I think there does need to be regulation. It does need to be age gated, and you got to talk about it with your kids.
Yeah, no question about that. So we talked about this brew, and I got lost, and I didn't talk to the audience about the other one. Please introduce it, tell it how it differs from this, and what it's similar to in the market. In the beer
Right. So
market, that is.
this is our THC IPA. IPA for us stands for infused and pretty awesome, as it is not an India Pale Ale, although it does have all the hallmarks of it. It is, more of a West Coast style. Some balanced bitterness on it. Dry hopped with Mosaic and Simcoe and Citra, and it is, like I said before, it just kind of fitting that epitome of what an IPA in my mind should be, as kind of a approachable entryway into this. So it tastes just like your favorite non-alc IPA, and it's just fortified with a little bit of float.
Can you hold it up again and show people the can and the milligrams as well? Hold it a little closer to the camera. So that has 3, and now that has 3 milligrams of CBD. This has 6.
Yeah.
Why
So
and how does
you got
that hit different?
the early batch, and we were getting a lot of feedback from people drinking this saying that 6 milligrams of CBD was making them sleepy. And
I agree.
and you drink a product first with your eyes. So whatever you bring into it is going to be amplified. So if you're going to think that 6 milligrams is going to make you sleepy, it's going to make you sleepy. So we listened to that and dropped it down to 3, and have had 0 sleepy feedback since then.
It is my biggest issue, other than the high dose, is these massive CBD bombs. And I argued with a brand I used to work for years because they had a 3-to-1 ratio. And most of these beverages that have anything higher than a 1-to-1 do make me sleepy. And I know some say it's placebo. I've tried 100 different drinks. I have experimented hardcore with this category. So kudos. Anything above a 1-to-1, you don't need it. There's this perception that you need CBD to level out the buzz. I don't think that's the case. I don't think you need any CBD in these beverages, but 1-to-1, I can certainly handle.
The reason we include it is because of our with the knowledge that our target consumer is not a regular cannabis consumer. The people we want to go get and try these drinks, they all probably have a brownie story or some edible story in their history, and they're wary of it. And CBD, the job of CBD in this product is to bind up the endocannabinoid receptors and slow down the onset, which is of the THC, which can be anxiety inducing to some, even at 3 milligrams. So that is kind of the goal of it, to make it more approachable. Originally we also had THCV in here, which we had to take out because Connecticut, they made all other minor cannabinoids Schedule 1. That's changing on January 1st, which is great. So we're going to be able to play with some other minors in our products. But the THCV it's like my favorite cannabinoid. It is.
Why? Tell me what it is and what's the impact.
It is, some call it the Ozempic of weed, which, kind of is very funny. It is uplifting, energizing, and can be appetite suppressing. So, we kind of had 6 milligrams of that originally, 3 THC and 6 CBD. And that was a party beverage. You could just party with that. It's great.
And so is that going to be January 1, the new Float House?
Well, we're working on sourcing non-converted, natural THCV. It's not it doesn't occur naturally in high quantities. So to get that hasn't been converted, we had found a source that was creating this with precision fermentation, basically just feeding a yeast strain galactose, and it is fermenting and metabolizing and excreting THCV, which is wild. It's really cool stuff. But
I can't wait for that. Because I really think that will change the industry, to give people that kind of upper feeling that we all want with THC beverages. All right, for the beer geeks out there, you broached it there a little bit, but tell me about the process involved, because I know some of the real beer lovers want to hear how you're making this.
Right. So, part of the threading the regulatory needle with this is we are not doing any fermentation here on site. We have great brewing partners that we've been working with, and they are producing our base to our recipe specifications, and that involves, your typical brewing process of mashing grains. You're converting starch to sugars. There is a primary fermentation that it undergoes, and then it is dealkalized, and that dealkalized base is what we use for what we receive and then blend up. And at that point, that's when we're adding the hops. So the hops are not added ahead of time, and that's what keeps it from being considered a malt beverage.
Okay, that's very interesting. All right, final question is the easiest one. Tell people where they can find you, how they can order you.
Yeah, so easiest way to find us on Instagram is at Drink Float House. Our website is floathouse.co. And you can if you're in a state that's cool with us shipping to you, we will ship to you. And we've got these 2 SKUs, and we've got a bunch of really cool stuff coming up. Not only the higher dose stuff, we're doing 16-ounce pounders of light. We're going to call it THC Extra at 10 milligrams for Jersey. We're doing a double IPA, and this winter we're going to have, I believe it's the world's first nitro stout. So, well, technically not a stout. It'll be like a stout. So we're doing a nitro with the full cascade for this winter that we're really pumped about.
And how many milligrams would that be?
So we'll do a 3 milligram, and then we'll do a 10 milligram for those who would like.
Awesome. So you can ship nationwide to the states that can accept.
Indeed.
And in what states are you in stores?
So we are in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and just starting in Jersey.
Give them a follow. They are Float House. It is outstanding. Brother, I appreciate you being with us. I know you're a very busy man. Look forward to catching up in person very soon.
Thanks, Dave. Cheers, man.